Imagine this. You wake up and the power's been out for 3 days straight. Your phone is completely dead. You drive to the nearest store and the shelves completely empty. The silence outside your window isn't peaceful, it's desperate. Now ask yourself this critical question. What's sitting in your pantry right now that could actually keep you and your family alive? If you're like most people, the answer is uncomfortable. You might think you're prepared with a few random cans of soup and some crackers. But let me tell you something. You're dangerously wrong, and when disaster strikes, you'll realize it far too late. In this video, I'm going to reveal the 9 essential canned foods that form the absolute backbone of survival preparedness. These aren't random picks. These are battle-tested staples that preppers rely on when everything else falls apart. But this isn't about giving in to fear or paranoia. This is about taking complete control of your future. So when supply chains break down, when stores run empty, when chaos hits your neighborhood, you'll be the one who's ready. I'm also going to share advanced strategies that go way beyond basic stockpiling, strategies that most amateur preppers completely miss. Welcome to Prep Pantry, where we turn uncertainty into unshakable preparedness. If you're serious about protecting your family and building real food security, hit that like button right now and subscribe to this channel. By the end of this video, you don't have a concrete, actionable plan that you can start implementing today. Trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next. Let's start with the absolute foundation of any prepper's pantry, protein. When a crisis hits, protein becomes your most valuable resource. It keeps you strong, maintains your muscle mass, and provides the sustained energy you need to survive. But not all protein sources are created equal, especially when we're talking about long-term storage. So let's break down the first 3 canned foods you absolutely must have stockpiled. If I told you that you could choose only one single canned food to survive a crisis, what would it be? The answer is beans. Not sexy, not exciting, but absolutely essential. Black beans, pinto beans, chickpeas, these are the survival staples that quietly outperform almost everything else on the market when it comes to cost per calorie, protein content, and dietary fiber. Let's talk numbers, because numbers don't lie. Canned beans cost roughly 25 to 40 cents per serving. Read that again. For less than half a dollar, you're getting a complete nutritional package that can keep you alive. Compare that to freeze-dried meals that cost $5 to $10 per serving, and you'll quickly understand why serious preppers prioritize beans above almost everything else. Now, shelf life. When stored in a cool, dry place, low-acid beans can last anywhere from 2 to 5 years. That's years of food security sitting on your shelf, requiring absolutely zero refrigeration, zero power, and zero special equipment. And here's the beautiful part. Beans are incredibly versatile. You can use them in chilies, you can mash them with rice to create a complete protein, you can stretch them into multiple meals to feed your entire family. But here's a pro tip that most beginners miss. Avoid the seasoned or sugary versions. Those added ingredients reduce shelf life and limit your cooking options. Instead, opt for no salt added cans and rinse them thoroughly before use. This gives you complete control over seasoning and keeps sodium levels in check, which is crucial during long-term survival situations. And here's a bonus strategy. While canned beans are fantastic, dried beans are even cheaper. Yes, they require fuel to cook, which is a consideration during grid down scenarios, but for long-term prepping where you have alternative cooking methods like rocket stoves or solar cookers, dried beans become an incredible backup option that can last decades when stored properly. The bottom line is, if you walk away from this video and do nothing else, go buy canned beans, lots of them. Rotate them into your regular cooking so they never go to waste, and you'll have built the foundation of a truly resilient pantry. Next up is canned tuna, and this one comes with an important reality check. Tuna has been a prepper favorite for decades, and for good reason. A single 5 to 6 ounce can delivers a massive protein punch with absolutely zero cooking required. You can eat it straight from the can, mix it with crackers, or combine it with other ingredients for a complete meal. The convenience factor is undeniable. Shelf life is solid too, typically 2 to 5 years when stored in proper conditions away from heat and moisture. So what's the catch? Here's where we need to talk about something that happened in 2025 that every prepper needs to understand. There was a massive tri-union tuna recall due to contamination concerns. Cans were pulled from shelves nationwide, and thousands of preppers suddenly realized they had a problem. This is exactly why diversification is absolutely critical. Never, ever, ever rely solely on one protein source, no matter how convenient or affordable it is. The smart approach is to hedge your bets. Mix in sardines, salmon, canned chicken, and other proteins so that if one gets recalled or becomes unavailable, you're not left scrambling. Here's a practical pro tip. Before you buy any canned tuna, inspect every single can carefully. Look for bulging, which indicates bacterial growth and potential botulism. Check for rust along the seams, which compromises the can's integrity. Examine the pull tabs for damage. These small checks take seconds but could literally save your life. And remember, variety isn't just about risk management, it's also about nutrition and morale. Eating nothing but tuna for weeks will destroy your mental state and potentially lead to mercury concerns. Build a balanced protein rotation, and you'll be far better prepared for whatever comes your way. Now let's talk about the protein source that far too many preppers completely overlook: canned chicken and turkey. These are absolute champions in the prepping world, and honestly, they deserve way more attention than they get. First, let's address why poultry beats seafood in many ways. Canned chicken and turkey are versatile, neutral proteins that are significantly less prone to recalls than seafood. They don't have the mercury concerns of tuna, they don't have the strong flavors that some people find off-putting with sardines, and they integrate seamlessly into virtually any recipe you can imagine. The shelf life matches other canned proteins, 2 to 5 years with no refrigeration required. But the protein content is where these really shine. You're looking at 25 to 30 grams of protein per serving, which is phenomenal for maintaining muscle mass and energy levels during high-stress survival situations. Versatility is the real superpower here. You can use canned chicken in soups, stews, casseroles, or sandwiches. You can mix it with rice and vegetables for a complete meal. You can shred it for tacos or enchiladas. You can add it to pasta. The applications are virtually limitless, which means you won't suffer from flavor fatigue, a real problem when you're eating from storage for extended periods. Here's a crucial pro tip. Choose plain or lightly seasoned cans for maximum flexibility. Heavily seasoned varieties lock you into specific flavor profiles and often contain preservatives that reduce shelf life. Plain chicken gives you a blank canvas to work with, letting you adapt to whatever ingredients you have available. One more thing, if you're concerned about packaging safety, look for brands that use BPA-free can liners. While the health impacts are still debated, BPA-free options are increasingly available at similar price points, so why not choose the safer option when you can? The bottom line is this: canned chicken and turkey are reliable, affordable, versatile protein sources that should absolutely be part of your core stockpile. Don't overlook them just because they seem boring. In a crisis, boring and reliable beats exotic and risky every single time. All right, we've covered the protein powerhouses. Now let's move into what I call the Nutritional All-Stars. These are the canned foods that don't just keep you alive, they keep you healthy. In a long-term survival situation, nutrition becomes critically important. Vitamin deficiencies, weakened immune systems, and declining mental function can all result from poor nutrition. The 3 foods we're about to cover solve these problems while still providing excellent shelf life and versatility. Canned salmon is an absolute nutritional powerhouse, and if you're not including it in your prepper pantry, you're making a serious mistake. Yes, it costs more than tuna or chicken, but the nutritional benefits justify every penny. Let's start with what makes salmon special. Beyond just protein, you're getting massive doses of omega-3 fatty acids, which are essential for brain function, cardiovascular health, and reducing inflammation. In a long-term crisis where medical care may be limited or unavailable, maintaining your health proactively becomes critical, and omega-3s are a huge part of that equation. But here's something most people don't know. Those soft, edible bones inside canned salmon are actually a rich source of calcium. In a survival situation where fresh dairy is unavailable, getting adequate calcium becomes challenging. Those salmon bones solve that problem. Don't pick them out, eat them. They're soft, they blend into recipes, and they're delivering essential minerals your body desperately needs. The shelf life matches other canned fish, 2 to 5 years under proper storage conditions, and the nutrient density is off the charts compared to most canned meats. You're not just getting calories, you're getting vitamins D and B12, selenium, and those crucial omega-3s that support immune health and cognitive function. Now, how do you use canned salmon effectively? Think beyond just salmon patties. Use it in stews, where the fish breaks down and adds richness. Mix it into pasta with whatever vegetables you have stored. Create salmon spreads with shelf-stable mayo and crackers. The key is thinking of salmon as an ingredient, not just a standalone protein. Here's the strategic value that people miss. In a long-term emergency that lasts months or even years, maintaining brain function and mental clarity is absolutely essential for making good decisions. The healthy fats from salmon support neurological health when stress is high and circumstances are chaotic. This isn't just about surviving. It's about maintaining your cognitive edge when you need it most. Yes, canned salmon costs more upfront, but when you calculate the nutritional return on investment, it's one of the smartest purchases you can make for your prepper pantry. Okay, I know what you're thinking. Sardines? Really? Yes, really, and I need you to put aside any preconceived notions about taste, because these small, oily fish are among the absolute highest calorie per dollar foods available on the market. If you're serious about prepping, you cannot afford to skip these. Let's talk calorie density, because in a survival situation, calories equal energy, and energy equals the ability to complete essential tasks. A single can of sardines or mackerel delivers 200 to 250 calories and roughly 20 grams of protein. That's phenomenal. And because they're packed in oil, you're also getting healthy fats that provide sustained energy, something that becomes incredibly valuable when carbohydrate sources are limited. The shelf life is excellent, 3 to 5 years, sometimes longer depending on the brand and storage conditions. And the nutritional value extends beyond just calories. You're getting those same omega-3 fatty acids we talked about with salmon, plus calcium from the edible bones, plus a complete amino acid profile from the protein. Now, let's address the elephant in the room, the taste. Yes, sardines and mackerel have strong flavors that some people find challenging. But here's the thing, you don't have to eat them straight from the can. With a little creativity, you can integrate them into recipes where the strong flavor becomes an asset rather than a problem. Try mashing sardines into rice with some tomato paste and seasonings. Add them to soups where they break down and add a richness without overwhelming fishiness. Spread them on crackers with hot sauce or mustard to mask and complement the flavor. The point is, don't judge these foods based on eating them plain. Judge them based on how they perform as ingredients in actual meals. Here's a strategic tip. Stock both oil-packed and water-packed versions. Oil-packed sardines give you extra calories and healthy fats, which is ideal for high-energy demand situations. Water-packed versions are lighter, more versatile, and better when you need protein without the extra fat content. Having both options gives you flexibility based on your specific nutritional needs at any given time. The bottom line is this: sardines and mackerel deliver more nutrition per dollar than almost any other food source. They're shelf-stable, calorie-dense, protein-rich, and packed with healthy fats. Yes, they require some culinary creativity, but if you're willing to experiment and find preparation methods that work for you, these little fish become absolute MVPs in your survival pantry. Now we're shifting gears slightly to talk about something that isn't a protein source, but is absolutely essential for any functional prepper pantry: canned tomatoes. This might seem less critical than meat or fish, but I'm telling you right now, canned tomatoes are the flavor foundation that transform bland survival food into meals you'll actually want to eat. And in a long-term crisis, morale matters just as much as calories. Let's start with variety. You need to understand the three main forms and how to use each one strategically. Diced tomatoes are perfect for soups, stews, and chunky sauces. Crushed tomatoes work beautifully for smooth sauces, chilies, and bases for other dishes. Tomato paste is concentrated flavor in a small package. A little goes a long way, and it's perfect for adding depth and richness without adding excess liquid. The shelf life for canned tomatoes is slightly shorter than low-acid proteins, typically 1 to 3 years. This is because tomatoes are acidic, which affects the can's interior lining over time. But even at the lower end of that range, you're still getting years of storage life. And with proper FIFO rotation, you'll use them long before they spoil. Cost-wise, canned tomatoes are incredibly affordable. Diced or crushed tomatoes typically run $1 to $1.50 per can, and tomato paste costs about 60 cents to $1. This makes them one of the most cost-effective ways to add flavor, color, and nutrition to your meals. Speaking of nutrition, let's not forget that tomatoes provide vitamin C and antioxidants like lycopene. In a long-term survival situation where fresh produce becomes scarce or impossible to obtain, these nutrients become incredibly valuable for maintaining immune function and overall health. Here's a pro tip that saves money and reduces waste. Buy tomato paste in tubes instead of cans when possible. Tubes are resealable, which means you can use exactly what you need and save the rest without worrying about oxidation or spoilage. One tube can last for multiple meals, making it far more efficient than opening a whole can when you only need a tablespoon or two. The strategic value of canned tomatoes goes beyond just nutrition. They're psychological comfort food. A simple meal of rice and beans becomes infinitely more satisfying with tomato sauce. Canned chicken transforms into something that actually tastes like a real meal when you add tomatoes and seasonings. This psychological component cannot be overstated. In high-stress survival situations, food that tastes good and provides comfort is worth its weight in gold for maintaining mental resilience. Stock a variety of tomato products, diced, crushed, and paste. Rotate them regularly into your everyday cooking. And when crisis hits, you'll have the flavor foundation to turn basic staples into meals that keep your family not just alive, but mentally strong and ready to face whatever comes next. All right, we're in the home stretch now. We've covered proteins and nutritional all-stars. Now we're moving into what I call the survival essentials, the foods that might not win any gourmet awards, but will absolutely keep you alive and functioning when everything else fails. And we're also going to dive into advanced strategies that separate amateur preppers from the people who truly understand long-term food security. This is where things get really practical and actionable, so pay close attention. Let's talk about the canned foods that everyone loves to hate: Spam, canned pork, and corned beef. These processed meats get mocked relentlessly in popular culture, but I'm here to tell you something that might save your life. In a real crisis, these are absolute lifesavers, and the people who stockpile them will be the ones thriving while others go hungry. First, let's address calorie density. These products are high in both protein and fat, which makes them incredibly energy dense. Fat is not your enemy in survival situations. It's actually essential. Fat provides more than twice the calories per gram compared to protein or carbohydrates, which means these cans deliver sustained energy that keeps you functioning for hours. When you're living through a power outage in winter, chopping wood, hauling water, and performing physically demanding tasks, that calorie density becomes absolutely critical. The shelf life of these products is remarkable. We're talking multiple years, and in many cases, these cans remain safe to eat well beyond the printed expiration dates. The high salt and fat content acts as natural preservatives, and as long as the can isn't compromised, the food inside remains stable for an impressively long time. Versatility is another huge advantage. You can eat these meats straight from the can with zero preparation. You can fry them up for sandwiches, you can dice them and mix them into rice and beans for a calorie boost. You can use them in soups, stews, or casseroles. They're protein sources that require no special handling, no cooking expertise, and no fancy equipment. But here's something most preppers never consider: barter value. In a prolonged crisis where supply chains have collapsed, items like Spam and corned beef become valuable trade goods. Someone might desperately need protein and be willing to trade batteries, rice, medical supplies, or other essentials for a few cans of meat. Stock extra, and you're not just feeding your family, you're creating a secondary currency. Here's a pro tip: buy variety packs when they're on sale and rotate through them regularly. Don't wait for a crisis to try these foods for the first time. Experiment now, find recipes that work for your family, and you'll be far more comfortable using them when it actually matters. The bottom line is simple: put aside any stigma or prejudice about processed meats. These products exist for a reason, and that reason is survival. They're affordable, shelf-stable, energy-dense, and versatile. When your power's been out for a week and your fresh food is long gone, you'll be incredibly grateful for every can of Spam sitting on your shelf. Now let's talk about something that rarely gets discussed in prepping circles but absolutely should: canned milk products, specifically evaporated milk and condensed milk. These are true multi-tools in your survival arsenal, serving both nutritional and psychological functions that become invaluable in extended emergencies. First, let's distinguish between the two because they serve very different purposes. Evaporated milk is unsweetened, shelf-stable milk that's had about 60% of its water removed. You can reconstitute it for drinking or cooking, or use it concentrated for cream-based recipes. It's perfect for savory meals, sauces, and anywhere you'd normally use milk or cream. Condensed milk, on the other hand, is sweet, thick, and incredibly calorie-dense. It's been concentrated and loaded with sugar, which acts as a preservative. One can of sweetened condensed milk packs nearly 1,300 calories. Let that sink in. That's more than half of an adult's daily calorie needs in a single can. In a survival situation where every calorie counts, condensed milk becomes legitimate survival fuel. The shelf life for both types is impressive: 2 to 5 years when stored properly in cool, dry conditions. No refrigeration required, no special handling needed. To stock them and forget about them until you need them. But the value of these products extends far beyond basic nutrition. This is where psychology comes into play. In stressful, traumatic situations, comfort foods have real, measurable impacts on mental health and resilience. Being able to make something sweet, a simple pudding, a treat for children, a sweetened coffee, can dramatically improve morale when everything else in life feels dark and uncertain. Here's your strategic approach: stock both types. Evaporated milk handles your savory cooking needs. Use it in soups, casseroles, mashed potatoes, and anywhere you need creaminess. Condensed milk serves as both a calorie bomb and a morale booster. Use it sparingly for treats, or in desperate situations, consume it directly for fast energy. One pro tip, if you have young children, canned milk products become even more critical. Kids struggle with stress and uncertainty, and being able to provide them with something sweet and comforting can make a dramatic difference in maintaining family cohesion and emotional stability. Don't overlook these products. They're inexpensive, they last for years, and they provide both nutritional value and psychological comfort. Add them to your stockpile, and you'll be preparing not just for physical survival, but for mental and emotional resilience. Now we're moving into truly serious prepping territory. Number 10 cans. If you're not familiar with these, they're large institutional-sized cans typically used in commercial kitchens, often containing dehydrated or freeze-dried foods. These are not your everyday grocery store purchases, but for long-term preparedness, they represent some of the absolute best value you can get. The shelf life is what sets these apart. We're talking 20 to 30 years when unopened and stored properly. Let me repeat that. Decades of food security in one container. This isn't just emergency preparedness, this is generational food security. You can buy these now, store them, and your children could potentially inherit them and still use them safely. The calorie content is massive. One number 10 can may hold the equivalent of 8 to 10 regular-sized cans. This means fewer containers to store, better space efficiency, and less packaging waste. When you're building a serious long-term food storage system, this efficiency matters enormously. Now let's talk about cost efficiency. Yes, the upfront cost is significantly higher than buying regular cans at the grocery store. A single number 10 can might run you $30 to $60 depending on contents. But when you calculate cost per serving over the 20 to 30 year lifespan, the math becomes very attractive.
You're paying a premium for longevity, and that premium pays off massively over time. Here's a practical pro tip. Start small. Don't go out and spend thousands of dollars on number 10 cans until you've tested them. Buy a few cans of different products, freeze-dried vegetables, dehydrated fruits, powdered eggs, whatever interests you. Open them, try the contents, and see what actually fits your family's preferences and cooking style. There's no point stockpiling food that no one will eat, regardless of how long it lasts. Once you open a number 10 can, the clock starts ticking. You'll need to use the contents within weeks or months depending on the product, or reseal them with oxygen absorbers in smaller containers. This is where meal planning becomes important. Don't open a huge can of freeze-dried strawberries unless you have a plan to use them efficiently. The strategic value of number 10 cans is that they bridge the gap between short-term emergency preparedness and long-term survival scenarios. Your regular canned goods might get you through a few months. Number 10 cans can get you through years or even decades if necessary. They're insurance against worst-case scenarios that most people don't even want to think about. If you're serious about prepping, and I mean truly serious, number 10 cans need to be part of your strategy. Research reputable suppliers, read reviews, start with small purchases to test quality, and gradually build your stockpile. Your future self will thank you. All right, here's where we separate the amateurs from the professionals. Most people think prepping is just about hoarding as many cans as possible. They buy stuff, shove it in a closet, and call it a day. That's not prepping. That's just shopping with anxiety. Real prepping is about building systems that actually function when you need them. The most effective approach is creating meal systems, not random stockpiles. This means thinking about how different foods work together to create complete, balanced meals. A can of beans by itself is protein and fiber. A can of beans plus rice creates a complete protein with all essential amino acids. Add canned tomatoes, and you've got flavor and vitamins. Add can of chicken, and now you've got a hearty, satisfying meal that will keep your family full and energized. This meal system approach multiplies your food security exponentially. Instead of having 50 random cans that don't work well together, you have 50 cans that combine into 20 different complete meals. See the difference? You're not just storing food, you're storing solutions. Next, let's talk about FIFO, first in, first out. This is basic inventory management, but most people ignore it and end up with expired cans and wasted money. Here's the system. Every time you buy new cans, label them with the purchase date using a permanent marker. Store them behind your older cans. When you need something, always take from the front. This way, nothing sits forgotten in the back until it expires. Set up your storage so this happens naturally. Put new purchases at the back of the shelf, keep older items at the front. Make it physically impossible to grab something new when something old is available. This simple habit ensures nothing ever expires unnoticed, and you're constantly rotating through your stockpile, keeping everything fresh and usable. Now here's something critical that many preppers miss: canned fats. In survival situations, fat is just as important as protein, maybe even more so. Fat provides long-lasting energy, supports hormone production, aids in nutrient absorption, and keeps you satiated. When you're in a high-stress situation with limited food, fat becomes essential fuel. This is why sardines in oil, Spam, and corned beef are so valuable. They're not just protein sources, they're fat sources. When you're living off rice and beans for weeks, adding some oily fish or fatty meat transforms those meals from subsistence eating into proper nutrition that keeps you functioning at a high level. Here's a pro tip for maximizing fat intake. When you open a can of sardines or mackerel packed in oil, don't drain that oil down the sink. That's liquid gold. Pour it over your rice, use it to cook vegetables, or drink it straight if you're desperate for calories. Every drop of fat counts in survival situations. Now finally, let's talk about avoiding gourmet pitfalls. It's tempting to buy gourmet canned meals that look amazing and taste great. But here's the harsh reality. Gourmet cans are expensive, they're often low in calories, and they won't sustain you in a long-term crisis. A $12 can of wild salmon might taste incredible, but it delivers maybe 300 calories. For that same $12, you could buy 6 cans of beans, delivering 1,800 calories total. The math speaks for itself. Focus your budget on staples, proteins, flavor bases like tomatoes, and just a few morale treats. Build a balanced, sustainable pantry that prioritizes function over fancy labels. You can have some nice items for morale, but the bulk of your stockpile should be efficient, affordable, calorie-dense foods that actually keep you alive. This systematic approach, meal planning, FIFA rotation, understanding fat's importance, and avoiding gourmet pitfalls, this is what separates people who survive from people who thrive. Build systems, not just piles of cans. All right, we've covered an enormous amount of information. Now it's time to make this actionable. You could watch this entire video, feel motivated for 20 minutes, and then do absolutely nothing. Or you could take immediate concrete steps today that fundamentally change your family's security. The choice is yours. Here's your starter plan, broken down into simple, manageable steps that anyone can follow. Step 1, pick 3 items to start with. I recommend beans, canned chicken, and tomatoes. These 3 form the foundation of countless meals.
Go to your grocery store today, not next week, not when you get around to it, but today, and buy at least 6 cans of each. That's 18 cans total, totally affordable, completely manageable, and it puts you ahead of 90% of people who never take the first step. Step 2, label and rotate. As soon as you get home, grab a permanent marker and write the purchase date on every single can. Then organize your pantry so older cans are always at the front. This takes maybe 5 minutes and ensures you'll never waste money on expired food. Step 3, diversify your proteins. Don't buy all chicken or all tuna. Buy some chicken, some tuna, some salmon, maybe a can or 2 of sardines, even if you're not sure about them yet. Mix in different protein sources so you're hedged against recalls, shortages, and flavor fatigue. Aim for at least 4 different protein types in your initial stockpile. Step 4, add dry staples. Canned goods are fantastic, but they're even better when paired with rice, oats, pasta, and other dry goods. Pick up a large bag of rice and a container of oats on your first shopping trip. These multiply the value of your canned goods exponentially, and they're incredibly cheap. Step 5, include morale boosters. This is where people often go wrong. They focus so much on survival calories that they forget about mental health. Add a few cans of fruit, maybe some canned pudding, or a can of sweetened condensed milk. These items might seem frivolous, but in a real crisis, they become incredibly valuable for maintaining hope and normalcy, especially if you have children. Step 6, test and adjust. Don't just buy food and forget about it. This week, cook an actual meal using only your prepper pantry items. Make rice, beans, and chicken with tomato sauce. See how it tastes. Figure out what seasonings you need. Discover what works and what doesn't. This testing phase is critical because you want to iron out problems now, not during an actual emergency when stress is high and mistakes are costly. Here's the key. Start small, stay consistent, and build gradually. You don't need to spend $5,000 today to become prepared. You need to spend $50 today, then $50 next week, then $50 the week after that. Consistent incremental progress beats sporadic, overwhelming efforts every single time. Set a monthly budget, even if it's just $50 or $100, and commit to adding to your stockpile every single month. Within 6 months, you'll have a legitimate pantry that could sustain your family for weeks. Within a year, you could have months of food security. And within 2 years, you could be looking at a full year of stored food. That's not fantasy. That's just math and consistency. One final thought on this action plan. Involve your family. If you're married, make this a partnership. If you have kids, teach them about food storage and rotation. Make it a family project, not a secret prepper hobby hidden in the basement. When everyone understands the system and participates in maintaining it, your chances of long-term success increase dramatically. The time to start is right now, not tomorrow, not after you watch more videos, not after you feel more motivated. Today. Take action today, and 6 months from now, you'll be so glad you did. So let's bring this all together. We've covered 9 essential canned foods that form the backbone of serious food preparedness. Beans for cost-effective protein, tuna with diversification in mind, chicken and turkey for versatility, salmon for nutritional superiority, sardines and mackerel for calorie density, tomatoes for flavor and morale, processed meats for energy and barter value, canned milk for nutrition and comfort, and number 10 cans for long-term security. But more importantly, we've talked about systems, how to build meal plans, how to rotate effectively, how to prioritize fats, and how to avoid costly mistakes that waste your money and limit your preparedness. Here's the core message I want you to remember. Prepping is about freedom and control, not fear. It's the confidence that comes from knowing your family will eat well no matter what happens. Whether it's a power outage, a job loss, a supply chain collapse, or another round of shortages, your pantry is your shield against uncertainty. The world is becoming less predictable. Prices are rising, recalls are increasing, and supply chains remain fragile. The smartest people are taking small, consistent steps right now to build resilience. Every single can you buy today is a piece of future security. When the next crisis hits, and there will be a next crisis, you'll be ready. Not just to survive, but to actually thrive. Don't wait for disaster to strike before you take action. Start building your pantry today, one can at a time. Mix affordable staples with calorie-dense proteins, rotate consistently, and include those few morale boosters that keep spirits high. The steps you take now, today, this week, will pay off when it matters most. Stay prepared, stay steady, and always remember, you can't control the storm, but you absolutely can stock the shelter. Thank you so much for watching Prep Pantry. If you found this video valuable, hit that like button right now. It helps this information reach more people who need it. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss our next video on emergency preparedness, food security, and practical survival strategies. Drop a comment below and tell me what's the first item you're adding to your prepper pantry after watching this video.